Hello, and first I want to start with I know this is going to be late. I don't know when this is going to get turned in versus when I'm filming or recording this, but I am so sorry. A series of unfortunate events and currently dog sitting, which is making this so much harder than it needs to be. Before I jump into who I am as a person, I want to start with some of my family history. So here is some historical context. My dad's side of the family were Irish settlers with the name Turfany, but since that was too hard for the Americans to pronounce, we went with Tiffany. So now I have two first names, which is pretty sick, but also really confusing at the doctor's office sometimes. Actually, my dad's side of the family is not very big. Like, all I know of is my aunt, my grandma, and my father. And I do have a grandpa. He's not my biological grandpa, though, but he's been there since day one, so, represent, represent. On my mom's side of the family, however, we have a whole book of everyone in our family, and it's pretty cool. And so the one memorable thing about my family, that's kind of mean to say. The one memorable thing about my family is my great 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 grandma, that was 9 times if you weren't counting, was on the Oregon Trail. Her name was Tabitha Brown, and I know you're thinking, isn't it Tabitha? No. I don't know why it's pronounced like that either. It should be Tabitha. But it's Tabitha Brown. No, it's really cool, and not to be weird and be like, look her up or anything, but you can. And she's not popular, but she's there. She took a route to the Oregon Trail, a very wrong one, and she somehow made it. She only had, I think it was about a dime on her when she made her voyage. And when she got to Oregon, she made an orphanage for all the kids whose parents didn't make it. And that is now a college. Oh, don't remember the name. Whoa, this is crazy. I just got ChatGPT to pull up a whole entire thing about my great 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 grandmother. Damn. Okay, yeah, so she's from Massachusetts in 1780s. In the late 1840s, despite her advanced age, she embarked on a journey to the Oregon Territory. That's a little excerpt from ChatGPT. Oh, yes, she's referred to as the Mother of Oregon, which is really cool. Okay, the college is Pacific University in Oregon. That is the orphanage that got taken down and got replaced as a college. But no, that's it. Into who I am as Georgia, living in Washington. As Georgia. Let's identify some of my social identities. But first of all, what are social identities? It refers to the labels that people use to categorize or identify themselves and others as members of specific groups. So, after hearing that, let's take a look at some of my social identities. I'm a girl. I'm a white American. I'm a teenager. I'm neurotypical. I'm able-bodied. Yeah, I'm able-bodied. I do have learning disabilities, however, but I'm fully able-bodied, so doesn't matter. I am bisexual, but currently in a straight relationship. I am not religious, however, I do celebrate Christmas, but who can blame me? Who can blame me? Social identities can be divided into two categories: marginalized and dominant. Now, looking at my social identities, I can arrange them in this
Oh, wow. And then taking a look from that, I can overall assume that I'm maybe around right here on the pyramid of hierarchy, social hierarchy. There's one social identity that I didn't mention that I would like to focus on for my research, mostly because I don't know where I fall, and that is class. Um, and I genuinely don't know where I am because I feel like I'm everywhere on the spectrum of class. So let's try to figure it out, I guess. Okay, first, my personal experience with wealth. As a kid growing up, I lived in a 2-story house that was pretty big. It cost around $12,000 per month. We lived off of one salary, which was my mom's, who was an elementary school teacher. My dad was unemployed by the time I was 6 and had lost a lot of money. It wasn't until 5th grade my dad got a job that lasted for like 2 months. This is when my parents got divorced. My sister, mom, and I moved into a nice little bungalow. Very cute. And my dad, you know where he moved, dog? Moved to the streets. No, but in all truth, my dad was homeless and for a year slept in my old best friend's outdoor tool shed. Yeah. So every Sunday for a year, I drove 30 minutes to Everett to go to my best friend's house and walk around behind her house to go to the tool shed and chill with my dad. And if you're thinking, Georgia, did that affect your relationship with your friend? Yeah, it did heavily, but the last time I saw her, I was 12 and she had told me she had done cocaine and said it was kind of awesome. Haven't seen her since, but safe to say I dodged the bullet. But, dog, cocaine? You're 13. After a year of my dad living in the tool shed behind my old best friend's house, he moved into his own house in Everett with a shit ton of roommates. And I can confidently say that they did hard drugs. Well, not only did I walk in there and constantly smell cigarettes and weed, one of the roommates was an ex-meth dealer. So I can only assume the others may be a current meth user, but it got to a point where filed a restraining order against one of them because she was batshit crazy. But we're safe now. That's good. The roommates only lasted for about a year or two. I was in 6th grade at this point, middle school. But after that, my dad was homeless, couch surfing with one of his friends who also used to be homeless that we housed for like 6 months. Wow, full circle. But here's the cool part. My dad bought a bus. Yeah, my dad bought a cheap Metro bus at an auction and parked it outside of the Factoria Mall. And since it was COVID and since it was Factoria Mall, it was completely empty, so we could renovate the bus in the parking lot. Where we worked on a bus for a year, and it's still in working progress to this day. However, his girlfriend that he was dating for about a year moved in together, and is renting a home. And they're still renting the home, and all I can say is finally a stable, kind of stable roof over our heads. Money with my dad was tight when I was 6 and still is now 10 years later. You're probably thinking, Georgia, not to spot out the obvious, but I think you might be poor. And to that I say, yes. But my mom at the time had still a very stable income, only needing to feed 2 mouths, including herself. After a year, my mom became stable on her own without my dad. Obviously, my dad had a very different side of the story. And I lived full time with my mom, and I wasn't living on the bus with my dad, which always leaves me confused on where I fall in social class. I did grow up with money being tight most of the time, but as I got to my early teens, I somehow landed on opposite sides of the spectrum. To try to figure out where I fall under social class, besides just having a spectrum, I started with interviewing my sister, and I don't know what I was expecting, but I was shocked.
What are beliefs that father and mother pushed on us?
They didn't push many beliefs. The one thing that I remember what was told to me a lot when I was younger was, as long as you try, they'll be happy. So, like, no matter how shitty you do, as long as you try your best, they're happy.
Who told you that, dad or mom?
Both. And then, I don't know, they didn't push any religious beliefs until trauma dump.
Oh, do tell.
One of the last conversations I had with father, he told me that if I didn't have any faith, that I was going to end up having a meaningless life full of nothing, and that it's worthless without having faith. And I was like, boy, you never, ever were religious until this very moment. Like, until now. So I don't know why you're getting mad at me that I don't have religion and I don't have faith when you literally never taught that to me until right now. Like, what the fuck?
Okay, where do you think we sit on, like, social class? Or the triangle, the pyramid?
I say we sit very high up. Like, as a whole, like, our family as a whole sits very high up. I think that we are very fortunate to own the properties that we live in and to have lots of money saved up for college and whatever. Like, we have a lot, like, financially, we are so set, and we always, like, kind of will have that.
And how is dad financially?
He's fine. I mean, he made it 10 years without a job, so he's, he has money that I know that another family member has been giving to him.
What family member?
Antiwo.
What?
But that's really crazy because she's paid him a lot of money within the recent years.
Well, the last time I talked to him, he said money's pretty tight. And he was homeless for like 4 years. Just 2 years ago. Like 3. She has been giving him. I do not think that I'm not an Antiwo defender. Like, in any case, this is not me being an Antiwo defender because you know that she got me freaked out like crazy sauce, and I've been hiding my sexuality from her for years. So the only time I've been actively discriminated against is when I'm with my partner who looks like a butch / masculine person, and then that's when I get weird looks or weird comments. Or people say like slurs around me and then I get all freaky. Deaky. Whoa.
But so, anyways, what's the next question?
How much of our family past do you know about? Like, this is the Turfany stuff.
I would say I have a pretty good knowledge of family, where everyone comes from, like family past history. There's a lot of people whose family heritage was erased due to slavery, discrimination, or different forms of systemic racism that erased family history. Technically, you know, our last name was erased. It was Tiffany, and then it was forced to be changed to Tiffany so that it was easier to pronounce for Irish to English. But yeah, not very discriminated against. I have a very good understanding of where our family comes from. And we have DNA tests and stuff that trace.
I'm at 13% Scottish.
Scottish, Welsh, English, Irish. Irish runs in our blood. And Grandma thinks that we're descendants of Vikings on record.
Is there anything that you would like to add on to what you've already said about the questions, social justice, our family?
Our family is very privileged living in a neighborhood like Kirkland, where financially, I'd say a lot of the intersections of our identities, we benefit a lot from our financial stability, and that is something that, while we have had to worry about in the past, that we do not need to worry about as much as other people. And I feel like when you're kids, you don't really understand the financial security and understand how much money or how little money your family has. And I'd say that now, understanding where we stand with our finances, we are very privileged, and also in a community that is so safe and so diverse. Being a gay woman and having a bisexual sister, who knows if she's out yet though, so you don't have to include it, but just, two living in a family with two gay girls, like all women household. The only thing we have against us is that we are gay, but we also are not visibly gay. So while we are out in public, like, we are not usually perceived as like super gay. So you have to come out, and which, is very exhausting all the time. But the way that society views us, we are very privileged, and also we have great access to knowledge and schooling and education, so we understand privilege and we understand our family and its history. And yeah, anyways, I'd say that we are very, very, very privileged.
I was over here thinking that I'm not that privileged, but I guess I am super privileged. And my sister's right. I live in a very rich neighborhood. I'm able to go on vacation with my family, but there are things that I have to look at. For example, we are renting it from my aunt who owns this house, and she works in real estate. That I know of, I heard the rent is cheaper for us. That's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind, me and my sister have different experiences with my dad. My sister doesn't have any contact with my dad, therefore has never experienced what I experienced financially when he was homeless. We both experienced money being tight at young ages together and having to deal with that as a family, but we never dealt with just my dad together. As very briefly mentioned in the video, and I wanted to cut it out because I didn't want to get into all of my family drama, but there is a lot of conflict on my dad's side of the family, a lot of drama, and hey, I love them, but they're kind of whack sometimes. But hearing all of this information, or lack of, I don't truly know my dad's side financially as of right now, and I know you understand, but I got too uncomfortable with asking my dad these questions, so I ended up not interviewing him. After talking to my sister and taking in account all of these different experiences and different facts, I have come to somewhat of a conclusion of where I sit social classly. I think I shouldn't look at it as a spectrum, but look at it as two halves, because obviously my mom and dad are not together,
so I shouldn't count them financially together because they are financially separated. Therefore, looking on my mom's side and how I live life like that, I am very privileged and I am middle to upper class. On my dad's side, however, I think we are lower class, middle lower class. It's constantly changing with my dad, but it's a spectrum between lower class to middle lower class, depending on what family member is paying my dad. Anyways, I do have to struggle with my dad's side and his financial or lack of finances, I guess. And I'm guess what I'm saying is I'm on both sides. Not necessarily a spectrum, but I know two sides of one half. But that's it. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for listening to this, even though I know it's late. I'm filming this late in February. I'm sorry. But thank you. Elisa says hi. Bye.